Hey folks, it's Woody here over at USA Made Blade, and I am super excited to be one of the very first to get introduced to you knife nuts, the brand new ZT0203 with Duralock and M4 steel blade. Man, we got a lot to talk about with this thing, so let's just jump right into it. For starters, these have just launched, the first batch of them. I know there are other dealers in on this, but we've got our first launch of them launching the same time as everybody else right now at usamadeblade.com. So if you've seen all you need to see, run over there and pick one up, because I don't think these are going to last long. So let's see here. Let's give you the specs, and then we'll just kind of talk about it loosely, and then we'll give you some comparisons. So I've already covered that this is an M4 steel blade. Let's get you over on this side here. And let's see, we got 3D machined G10 over some thick, heavy PVD coated steel liners. This is the Duralock. It does have some, basically some texturing or some jimping type on here. Texturing, I guess you could say. Definitely get your finger on there well. Thumb stud opening. Really good action on these. I mean, you can tell it's hard to do at the camera, but definitely no problem just using a wrist flick to close this thing. And good, easy grippable here on the Duralock buttons. So you want to say this is ZT's first axis lock, but it's actually not, but we'll get into that in a minute. Let's go through a few things. Let's see, the crossbar is a hardened steel crossbar. Let's see, we covered that. Overall length, we're looking at 9.5 inches. So tip to end here. Blade, you're looking at a 4-inch blade that's going back to the handle. You're going to be about 3.75 on the cutting edge. Closed length, you are 5.2 inches. So it's a big sucker. And then weight, 6.7 ounces. So it is a beast of a knife. It's what you guys have been asking for. This puppy runs on washers, so you got that there. And let's hit the price point on this thing. Nice, dead centered. The few that I've had a chance to play with, we haven't noticed any blade play. ZT's just done a really good job of keeping things like that at bay. So $296, guys. $296 out the door shipped. That's pretty darn impressive. So big knife, feels really good in the hand. Plenty of room for my big chunky fingers here. Fills up the palm really well. Thumb runs across the back of that blade on that ramp. Probably as perfect as any knife I've ever put in my hand. I mean, just really sits on there very nice. Feels good, feels really good. Action on it is very, very good. So bravo, well done. Impressive knife from ZT. Glad to see the change up in steel. I love the M4 on this. As with all ZT knives, it's coming out of the box wicked, wicked sharp. You got a pivot nut on here as well. I think it's a 5/16, so easy adjustable there in the field. So I love that. That's one of the things that I loved on the 1/2-inch pivot nut on the 308. So well done, and pivot, full thick pivot goes all the way through, pivot nut. And guys, just well done. Very well done. So let's get in and compare this knife to some of the popular knives that we have sold or haven't sold. The first one's going to be one, no, this is not for sale. This is my own personal one. I picked this up at my very first blade show and have always loved the fact that I have it. But we gotta start by comparing it to the ZT0500 Mud. People have begged and begged and begged Zero Tolerance to bring this knife back. I don't think they ever will, because I think the cost of it, by the time they bring it back, they'd probably have to sell it for $700. But cool design from Grant and Gavin Hawk with that what is definitely still an axis lock, but it's all encased here to keep the mud and debris out of it. So, but this is not the knife we're talking about, but I do want to show it because a lot of you guys have owned a Mud or held a Mud, and that's what this knife kind of brought me back to. The Mud's definitely smaller. You're going to be about almost half an inch on blade length difference, but on those handles, they're very similar. The Mud, because of that pivot and the way it's set up from Grant Gavin, is different. Deep pocket carry clip on both. This deep pocket carry clip is nice and strong, so they did a really good job with that. And so just had to start with the Mud, man. It's the first thing I thought of when I pulled this thing out. I mean, obviously it's not the same technology as the Mud, but definitely some similarities in the overbuilt, and definitely not their first technical axis lock, I guess you might say. So let's compare it to some other popular ZTs, and we're gonna do some shameless plugs here, as we always do on some of our customized stuff. Here is the recently discontinued ZT0308. As you can see, we're pretty close in size. So a little bit longer on the handle, just a hair longer on the blade. I would say cutting edge, you're only getting about a 1/4 inch more there on the blade. I believe we're gonna be the same blade steel thickness, I do believe, but handle thickness, look at that. Let me get these up here where you guys can see this better. Look at that. Definitely, I mean, get these two flat. You're getting a good bit more thickness out of that handle on the 0203. So let's bring in another one that's been discontinued from ZT. This one we haven't sold in a long time, but this is the ZT0850. This knife got a lot of hate when it came out, and then people got it in their hands and were like, holy crap. Beautiful knife from ZT, very wicked light. Just had to throw it in here. I mean, it's not Throwback Thursday, but hell, wanted to kind of go that route. This knife became very popular once people got it in their hands. So definitely more handle you're going to get out of the 0203. Definitely more blade all the way around. And so good job from ZT. That's something we don't talk about very often, but I've seen this topic on some forums and some Facebook groups talking about how much blade you get in a knife. And ZT got a lot of blade in this one. They really did in that handle. But you can see compared, definitely a bit bigger than the 0850. So, and just for giggles, while we're looking at discontinued knives from ZT, here is the ZT0801. Obviously not much of a comparison at all, but just had to throw it in because it's a cool ZT. So let's show it compared to the only ZT I've got out here that's going to be currently made is the ZT0560 tie. This is in Magna Cut. This has been the standard for probably one of the best production knives made out there. Just very well done. So this is also the same size as far as overall length, same size as a Hinderer XM18 3.5. So that's going to give you an idea of really how big this sucker is. So close this thing up, give you guys just kind of a side-by-side comparison there. And that doesn't really do it much justice till you flip it like this. And you can really tell you're getting quite a bit of extra handle length out of it. And then, I mean, look at those blades. Definitely a difference in blades. And that's where a little oil got on here. But quite the bigger blade. So let's jump from there and let's show this thing off with some of the, we as everybody should know that follows us, we sell a ton of Hinderers. So I want to throw this thing in here just to give an idea. Those that have had a full track in their hand, I think this will really give you an idea of how big this sucker is. So the full track, fantastic knife from Hinderer, probably one of my all-time favorite big knives ever made. And look at that thing. I mean, that really gives you an idea. Full track, you're going to be at 3.75 inches, I believe. So you can see you're getting just a little bit more blade length out of the 203. But well done. It's handles here, about the same thickness. So really it's just the width that you're going to get more handle width. But look at those blades. That'll give you an idea of how wide that blade is on the 203. So let's, while we're on the Hinderer kick here, we'll just quickly show it off next to their biggest beast of all, which is the XM24. This probably isn't the best one to use. I apologize, it's the one I had here to be able to use, but here it is compared to an XM24 Warney. And blades obviously just are hard to compare, but really put this in here more to show this off to you guys with the handles. So the 203 is definitely a little lighter than the XM24, but not by much. Not by much at all, I don't think. So both beast of knives. And then we'll just quickly show you with the Hinderer Hinderer Eclipse. So the Eclipse is roughly the same size as that, and overall length as the ZT0560 tie or the XM18 3.5. So let me just show these off. Look at that. Knock that thing out left-handed. So that'll give you an idea of how beastly that thing is. And then a couple other shameless plugs we'll get in here. We recently dropped these. I know a lot of you guys picked them up. This is the Defiant 7 Talos. It's the same size as the Les George Talos. It was designed by him. This is an exclusive from us. So this is definitely a shameless plug, but also I know a lot of you have picked these up, and we're gonna have more of these coming this next week, so I thought I'd plug that in here while I could. So definitely the 203. I mean, just not much of a comparison there, but hey, got the shameless plug in, good for us. So here it is. For those of you that have a Koenig Arius full size, thought this might give you a good idea. The Koenig's definitely one that's got a very big blade on it. And so I kind of put this one more in here for the blade size, but they're you know, a little bit different, but just thought it'd be one to show off. And then of course, I've got two more here. Wouldn't be giving a review without getting at least an Inkosi in here. So the Inkosi and the Sabenza full size or large Inkosi, large Sabenza are the same size. So hopefully that gives you a really good idea here of how beastly this knife is. And then last up, I really think one of the best comparisons I've got for it is the Spartan Blades Harsey Folder. Very, very close here. You get a little bit more blade length out of the 203, but handle-wise, they're about the same. Also, you start talking about thickness across the back, they're really, really close. So get these up here where you can really see them together. And show these off from the back side as well. So hopefully that gives you guys a really good idea. Those are some of the popular knives we've sold and some throwback to some old ZTs. But guys, I've been impressed with this one. I think it's very well done. I'm usually not a fan of the axis lock, but this has good retention pulling back to the handle. It does not come out with ease, but it's got good action when you use those thumb studs. Closes up nicely. It's heavy, it feels good, but it's not ridiculously stupid big. But if you love a bigger knife, a tank of a folder, which is what we've all been asking ZT to keep making, and I think they absolutely crushed it with this, then here you go. This is a hard one to beat. I think this takes on the Benchmade full-size Adamas really nicely, and I think ZT did a better job of it, if I'm being completely honest. Everyone we've messed with has been flawless, has been dead-centered, has had good action. Been very impressed with them. So like I said, these just dropped. We weren't allowed to post this video until 11 o'clock this morning. So, but they are now on our site. I don't know how long we'll have them, but we've got a decent amount of them to start, and we've already got more ordered. So we hope you'll wait. If we do sell out quickly, we hope you'll wait. We'll have more in pretty quickly after this. But definitely check them out and give us a shot at getting one over at usamadeblade.com. And as always, folks, we appreciate you watching.